The law offices of Ron Scholes presents Miller on Sports, the only sports show that keeps you glued to your seat. Everything else is just talk. Now, here's your host, Richard Miller.
Oh, it's another beautiful, wonderful day to be alive in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome on in. This is Miller on Sports right here on Talk Radio 600 WBOB. Always brought to you by the law offices of Ron Scholes, a law firm of military veterans fighting for you. Check them out at YouHurtWeFight.com. Saturday from now until December, the Riverside Arts Market. It's a wonderful event, open from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. There are live musicians. There's plenty of things going down at the Riverside Arts Market. Learn more at riversideartsmarket.com. They've got artists, they've got fresh fruit, all these vendors there. It's just a wonderful atmosphere. There's no admission charge. It's family friendly. It's pet friendly. About 5,000 to 7,500 people are there every Saturday. And I recommend that you get there a little earlier because it's a little cooler and everything. But even by noon, it's still so pleasant. It's just a great atmosphere. You can visit Miller on Sports on Facebook. I've got all the information up there. And now the river taxi goes right to where the market is. It's right underneath the bridge. It's cool. It's shaded. It's a lot of fun. It's the Riverside Arts Market every Saturday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Every Thursday at 1:20, Miller on Sports brings you the NASCAR report with NASCAR Andy. Andy, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good, Richard.
Yeah, excellent. Did you enjoy the race last weekend at Sonoma?
I did. I enjoyed what happened. Vickers with Stewart, too. I was laughing my butt off when I saw Stewart's car with its back end up on the top of the tire wall.
Andy, that was the funny thing because here you had Stewart going after Vickers, but then when Vickers went after Stewart, Vickers pretty much slammed on the brake, sped up, then spun out Tony Stewart. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Tony Stewart said after the race he deserved it because he had hit Vickers. He wasn't even mad about it. He said it was payback. He said, I knew it was coming.
At least,
you know, that...
At least Tony Stewart realizes that. You know, he's a spoiled little brat, and he gets what he deserves, and he understands it.
Yeah, so it was funny. But the real surprise is Kurt Busch got a monkey off his back. Number one, been winning poles and finally won a race. But number two, the only kind of track he has not won on now has been a plate race on the super speedway. I mean, he's won a road course now, so, and I mean, a dominating fashion. You know how we talked last week about winners only leading a couple, 3 laps here and there. Kurt Busch won this thing going away. I mean, you know, so there's no disputing who was going to win this race.
Very true. He led 76 laps, and we definitely talked about that. And Andy, that was a question I had for you this week, is the fact that we saw Kurt Busch at one time winning 3 straight poles, not winning a race this year, kind of struggling when it came to Saturdays or Sundays. What's the difference between poles and racing? What's the mentality like?
Well, the mentality you set up for qualifying and winning a pole, but the mentality, winning a race is completely different. I mean, you depend on your team to get your car right to win a pole, but you know that's all. But for the actual race, you depend on your team for good pit stops and no mistakes, getting you the track position you need, and that's what he got out of his team this week.
And Andy, as well, with these road courses, we see, I guess, a lot of feuds or like pseudo-feuds with some of these drivers, Vickers and Stewart, and there were a handful of other guys. Do they take these feuds into the garage, or do they just kind of laugh them off like Stewart did?
Some they take into the garage, but this one's not going anywhere. Tony wasn't mad. They knew this one was coming. Brian did say, though, that Tony said he was blocking. He said, hey, I was just braking because there's people in front of me messing up. But I mean, you know, this one I think is over with. It's not like what's Harvick going to do to Kyle Busch this week. You know, it's not that type of feud. So, no, this one was just, hey, you did it to me, I do it to you. Okay, fine, it's over with. You know. So.
And Andy, as well, one of our drivers that we always talk about each and every week is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Struggled in Sonoma. He finished 41st after his car wrecked, and then it started leaking water. Do you think that's going to hurt his momentum going into Daytona?
Nah, completely different type of race. Nah. And first thing is I picked for 3 weeks now saying, hey, when we got to Daytona, look out for Junior. He could win the race. He'll be running a special paint scheme, the camouflage like they wear in Afghanistan, the Army wears. the car will be painted up like that, National Guard colors and everything. Tony Stewart is an excellent play. I mean, not Tony. I mean, Junior is an excellent plate racer. But Tony Stewart, the reason I did that popped in my mind. He's who Dale Jr. likes to hook up with for drafting. So, but I really expect Junior to do well this weekend. You also got to watch out for Trevor Bayne. You got to watch out for the other Hendrick cars like Jimmy Johnson and
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon. Thank you. I'm getting old. My mind's going to mush. And then you got to watch out for any of the Rouse cars. They're doing really well too.
And you mentioned Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, both winners 3 times at Daytona with the Coke Zero 400, or we know it as a Pepsi 400 back in the day. I think they're
Firecracker 400 if you're real old.
If you're there, you go, Andy. But Gordon Stewart, I think they've got a great chance. You brought up the drafting. Does it really matter who you pick, or is this almost like the show Survivor, where it's just a free for all? You make an alliance and you can switch the next day.
It's like that, but I mean with this new 2-car draft. And something else everybody's got to remember, we raced at Daytona in January on a new pavement, but this is the very first time this new pavement under the hot conditions you get in the summer. We don't know how this pavement's going to react. We don't know if the 2-car draft's going to work or if we have to go back to a multi-car draft. I mean, that was in the cold weather, you know. Mm-hmm. Let's see how this new pavement's going to act in hot weather.
We're talking with NASCAR Andy, the NASCAR Report, every Thursday at 1:20. Follow him on Twitter at NASCAR Andy. And Andy, as well, last year we saw a record 47 times the lead changed. Could you expect the same thing, or with this new pavement, is it going to be a little bit different?
If we have the 2-car drafting system, it'll probably be record lead changes again, yes.
And we saw in the point standings as well, the biggest change was Dale Earnhardt Jr. dropping from 3rd to 7th. Yeah. But Jimmy Johnson, he flipped last week. He flipped this week. He's now in 2nd. I'm just thinking, again, this guy has to be Jimmy Johnson's year for, what, the 5th, 6th straight year?
No, I don't think he's going to win it this year. I really don't. I think there's too many people getting better. He's not dominating. People are figuring out what Johnson did, and they're doing it now too. You got a lot of teams now that, if they're a little bit off at the beginning of their race, and I'll give you a good example. Carl Edwards last week. Carl wasn't right after Friday's practice and qualifying. Instead of going to the nationwide race, he stayed there for the practices on Saturday, got his car right, and ended up finishing 3rd. So so people are following that. What do you want to say, the Johnson model, and. It's going to be a lot harder for him to win a championship this year. It's not going to be like he's done in previous years.
I did notice that, Andy. And then before you'd mentioned Trevor Bayne. Is he completely healthy now? Because this has been one of the strangest stories in all of sports over the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, he's healthy. He's doing well in the nationwide races. He doesn't race well on the road tracks. I mean, they expect a lot of him, but he's healthy, and he'll be fine at Daytona. Won't have the same car because that one's in the Daytona display. Mm-hmm. But they'll have another one set up, real well and with a good motor in it from Yates Racing, so Roush Yates Racing. So they'll do good.
Did they ever figure out what it was? Because at first we heard a bug bite, maybe a spider bite. What was this?
They've never said. Who knows? I mean, maybe just something he don't want to tell anybody about, and that's his privilege. I mean, medical stuff.
I guess
everybody knows mine because I'm on the radio.
I guess, Andy, we'll just wait for the book to come out from Trevor Bayne. We'll just wait for that then. And Andy, your pick this week is Junior?
Yeah, Junior, and then the other people I named. Yeah, Junior being pushed by Tony Stewart. How's that for a deal?
That sounds good. I definitely like that. The NASCAR Report with NASCAR Andy every Thursday at 1:20. Andy, it was a pleasure, and enjoy Daytona.
All right, enjoy it, and say hi to my buddy Tracy Dott when she comes on.
All right, I definitely will. NASCAR Andy with the NASCAR Report every Thursday at 1:20. It was interesting. He brought up a few facts there about Junior and Tony Stewart, and I like Jeff Gordon this year. Although he hasn't won this race in quite some time, I really like his chances. But I must bring up the fact that Daytona tickets are very affordable. If you haven't been, I talked about it last week. It is so much fun to take your friends, your family. It doesn't matter. Take one person. I gave away tickets last week, but tickets are still available. It's really enjoyable. I won't be going this year, but I plan on going for next year for the Daytona 500. I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. It's right down the road. It's definitely something on your bucket list as a sports fan. It needs to be there. You need to check it off. You need, what is it, Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson? All right, that needs to be you. Whichever one you want to be, you can be either one. But you need to go to the Coke 0400 or the Daytona 500. It is just so exhilarating. Even if you just despise NASCAR, you say it's not for me, I can't follow it, I don't know what's going on, it's just too many turns. You need to go. You really need to give it a chance. It is quite enjoyable. You can find NASCAR Andy on Twitter at NASCAR Andy. It's very easy. He brings you the NASCAR report every Thursday at 1:20 right here on Miller on Sports and Talk Radio 600 WBOB. We're your official home for NASCAR. So any and every race, we will have it for you. Whether it's Kentucky, whether it's Daytona this weekend, we have it. Go to 600WBOB.com, full race schedule, times, and coverage always starts an hour ahead. So we've got a little pre-race, and if you haven't listened to NASCAR on the radio, I prefer it over TV. There are times where I will watch the race on TV, mute it, and I will listen on the radio. It's just, I enjoy it a lot more. Of course, I'm just a huge fan of radio. I love it. I find it's just so pure, it's really enjoyable, and I get to do this for a living. Coming up, it's the Florida News Network. Then, one of our favorites, Tracy.com, she will join us from Action News. Her blog, Are You Ready for the Weekend? She's on Fox 30 every Friday morning at 7:45. And this week, I need to remember, we need some behind-the-scenes TV stories. Some juicy gossip, maybe? I don't know. I'm looking forward to Tracy.com joining us and figuring out what's going on this weekend. Of course, 4th of July is Monday. You're listening to Miller on Sports. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Miller on Sports. More of the show when we come back.
Your new home for the best conservative talk radio in Jacksonville. Talk Radio 600. WBOB. Online 600WBOB.com.